Hey, everybody. All right, so I am going to talk to you about notification like right in the middle of my screen. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about the Power Hour. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I feel very passionate about this because this is literally how I built my business. And I built my business an hour at a time, except sometimes it was 15 minutes at a time. Sometimes it was 5 minutes at a time. But if I wasn't organized with my Power Hour ready to go, I didn't get that time. Like when the 5 minutes came, I spent so much time going, where's the person I'm supposed to contact? What am I supposed to be doing? That my 5 minutes came and went and I didn't get my stuff done. So you had to be very organized. So here is a brief overview of what it looks like. The Power Hour is 15 minutes on host calls, 15 minutes on customer calls, 15 minutes dating calls, and 15 minutes recruiting calls. Calls, messages, texts, whatever, okay? Like it just says calls. It doesn't mean you have to make a phone call. If you want to make a phone call, make a phone call, right? And go for it, right? If you prefer to text, do it. Just do, it's about the action is what it's about. And then as you kind of grow in your business, you might add another 15-minute segment that's like personal growth. You might add a 15-minute segment that is working with your team, right? And so there's lots of different segments that you can add, but the basic of it is about your personal business. And it's about host coaching. It's about getting people to date parties, recruiting, and customer calls, right? And that's like the absolute key to your business is doing that and breaking that down. So it's really important every day, the day before, right? The day before you're going to start that, the night before, go ahead and just write down, like, kind of organize yourself. Like, who are the people that I need to call about dating a party that I need to follow up with? Who are the customers that I want to follow up with and make sure that they're using their products, that they've gotten them out of the box, that they've done whatever, and thank them or whatever. Who are the host coach? Maybe you need a host coach. Maybe you need to close a party, right? So that's part of host coaching, right? It doesn't stop when the party happens. Host coaching goes beyond, right? It's kind of like so I played golf years ago. Sorry, my camera's doing something weird. Okay. So I played golf years ago and you have to swing through the ball, right? So it's the same thing with your host coaching. You have to swing through the ball, whether it's golf, baseball, tennis, whatever, you're swinging through. So you have to keep your host coaching going after the party's over. And that's like following up, making sure you got all the orders collected, making sure that she's helping you get those datings, all that kind of good stuff, right? So, so the key to why is it so effective, the Power Hour, is because it really helps you form those good habits, right? Oh, my camera, I don't know what it keeps focusing on. I'm not really even talking with my hands. All right, so it helps you form those good habits. And it also creates focused intentions, all right? Focused intentions on what it is, because where your energy goes, your attention flows, or something. There's some sort of saying, but all right. So, but it's really important to know what it is that you're focusing on to get you closer to whatever that goal is. It encourages daily action for income producing activities. And that is the key, because there's so much busy work we can do in this business. We can make graphics for hours and we're like, whoa, I worked so much today. Did you make any money? Did you post any of those graphics? Did you send them to anybody, or did you just make them? Right. And you sit there and you're like, oh, I spent so much time today working my business. You were actually scrolling on Facebook. You may have started off scrolling on Facebook looking for somebody that you're like, oh, I need to follow up with this person, or oh, this might be somebody who might be interested in selling Tupperware, right? But then you went down a real rabbit hole and you spent hours just going to the next video, right? And so it's really important to, when you start out, to know exactly what it is that you're going for. So I really encourage you to have a timer. Now, we are all so fortunate because I don't even know where my phone is. We have timers right here on our phones, right? So we always have a timer at our fingertips. However, I use old school timers, right? So I have a timer on my desk and it actually does 15 minutes. Can you see that? Yeah. 15 minutes, a 5 minute, and I think a 30 minute. And so when I flip it to that side, it starts the clock. And so I can just I just flip it over to the next one, right? So I don't care what your timer is. It could be just it could be the timer on your stove because you're working in your kitchen. Doesn't matter, right? But you set that timer and you commit to doing your business and doing income producing activities during that time. And that's how you're going to get it done. So excuse me. So figure out like how many at the beginning of the week, how many hours are you going to spend working on your business? How many power hours are you going to do? If you set out to do 2 power hours a week, that's great, right? If you set out to do 4, that's even better. And it's even better if you do 8. Okay. So the more power hours you do, the more business you are going to get. There's no 2 ways about it, because it's more contact, it's more follow-up, it's more people that you're in front of. It's just a numbers game, right? So you have to just kind of keep doing more. So start wherever you can start, right? And like I said, I mean, when I started, my kids were 2 and 3. So even getting an hour, that wasn't going to happen. I was not going to be able to sit down for an hour and concentrate on my work. 15 minutes, some days that didn't happen, right? That's why I say sometimes it was 5 minutes at a time. But I actually, in my notebook, I just would put hash marks I would put the 4 categories, and then I put hash marks for my 5 minutes to make sure I did those 5 minutes. And I had a binder. Old school. It was all paper. Okay. Cause this is long before smartphones, and I barely wanted to use a computer, and I certainly didn't know how to use it to do anything digitally organized. Right. And so it was all old school, right? I had a notebook in each segment. I had one for dating, one for recruiting, one for host coaching, one for customer follow-up. And I just worked people through this notebook. And so when that time came, I opened it up and I'm like, this is the person I need to call. And then I flip them over to the other side sorry, my allergies are killing me. I'd flip them over to the other side when I was done with them. So I just had a paper system that I worked with. You might use OneNote in your phone. You might use notes on your phone. Some of you are really advanced and use Trello. There's lots of things you can use. The key is use something, right? It can be just a spiral notebook. I know Loretta talked about, she would just do a spiral notebook and she would just have people's names in there and she'd flip through the notebook, right? And so it's really important for your 15 minutes of customer follow-up, you're connecting with upcoming hosts, you're sending, or 15 minutes of follow-up, you're sending host coaching messages with leads from vendor shows, all that kind of good stuff, right? And then 15 minutes of prospecting, you're commenting on posts. This is kind of a little bit more of a modern power hour, right? So you're commenting on people's posts, trying to kind of like get that conversation going so you can take it over into Messenger. And then 15 minutes of promoting your business, right? That again, that's going towards dating parties. What's your intention in promoting your business? Is it sales? Is it recruiting? Is it dating parties? Always know what that intention is as you're going so that you can just really focus in on that. Because if you don't know what that intention is, it's kind of like throwing stuff on a wall and seeing what sticks, right? It's really important to kind of know what you're going after, because otherwise you're just kind of like throwing stuff out there, just hoping that somebody is going to date a party with you, right? And that's not going to work. And then also make sure to put in a little bit of time there for your personal development. And what I used to do is I would find a training on recruiting, and I would listen to a bit of that training, and then I would make my recruiting calls. I'd find a training on dating. I'd listen to some of that dating, and then I would make my dating calls. And that's how, because then the training was fresh in my mind. And so I was like, okay, I get all psyched up and I would go and I would do those activities. So the Power Hour years ago, I think Belinda Ellsworth was a great trainer. And I think she was one of the first people that really formally trained on the Power Hour. And then I have this document that our wonderful Loretta DeCenzo Tiber put together years ago, which is a great explanation of everything I'm talking about for the Power Hour. And so she sent it to me I was like, I can't find that document. Keep sending me. She sent it to me just a couple minutes ago. So I'll make sure to get that into Champion for you guys. So thank you, Loretta. I've literally used this paper for years to train on this. Yes, it will be available to you, Heather. So yeah, seriously, the biggest thing when it comes to the Power Hour, the way it's going to work for you is if you work it consistently. You may set out and you're like, tomorrow you do a Power Hour. You're like, hey, I did a Power Hour. Look at me. Woo. All right, doing good, right? But you got to do the day after, and you got to do the day after that, and you got to do the day after that, right? You have to keep going. And so I would do, like I said, my kids were really small. And so I would commit to 2 power hours a day, 5 days a week, because I wanted to grow this business. And they weren't hours. They were 15 minutes, 5 minutes here, there. But I just kept really good eye on keeping, like, tracking that time and being really honest with myself about the time that I am putting my business. Is it income producing activities, or is it a distraction, right? Is it something that is not income producing, but it's kind of busy work, right? Organizing my office, cleaning things, and like, oh, I'll be able to work my business when I have everything organized. No, you won't. You won't like, but then you're going to be frustrated because you're like, where's my business? I've been working so hard. No, you haven't. You've been shuffling papers in your office, right? So it's really important to just define that and then be really honest with yourself to be able to get that done. I really highly recommend an accountability buddy. Tell somebody you're committing to these power hours, whether it's your upline, sideline, a business buddy, right? And maybe it's even better if you both make a commitment to each other, like I'm going to do a power hour today, and then you check in with each other at the end of the day to see how you did in your power hour, right? And so I'm infamous for Eric would ask me, hey, how are your calls going? And I'm like, well, I haven't dated any parties, but I had some really great conversations. Right. And I was just like, but that to me was still a win because it was a conversation. It was positive energy going into my business. And I knew that it was going to lead to future business, whether that future business came from that person or maybe it came from somebody else, because I was always practicing these conversations and having them with people all the time. And so it's really important to realize that that investment in yourself, even though you don't see the turnaround right away, if you keep going, it's coming. It's absolutely without a shadow of doubt coming, but you have to keep going and you have to be consistent with it. So that is our power hour. So just a little preview. Okay. So next week is my second favorite training, which is working the business around your kids in the summer and just all year long for those of you that have really little ones that are at home all the time. But working your business around your family and ways that you can kind of make that work. Because if you are a parent, or even if you're a school teacher, maybe, and you don't have kids, your schedule changes several times a year based on the season, what's going on, school getting out, school going into session, right? Your schedule changes and you have to learn to quickly pivot, adjust, and be able to keep going, but also still be able to have all that wonderful fun in the summer. Like I said, whether you're an empty nester or if you have kids, even if you're an empty nester, you deserve some fun in the sun too. Okay. So you might want to go do something fun this summer and go to all the concerts and things like that that are going on in your community. And so in order to be able to do those things, one, you need income, right? You want to be able to have that income to do those fun things. And two, you want that flexibility around that. So, so next week we'll be talking more about that. But in the meantime, these power hours is kind of part one of that training for next week.